What if the life you're living isn't too small, but your belief in yourself is? What if the feeling of being overlooked, undervalued, or stuck in neutral isn't a flaw in your destiny, but a signal from your soul that you've been playing beneath your power? See, too many of us were taught to water ourselves down, to make ourselves digestible, to lower our voices so we don't threaten anyone. But what if your voice was meant to be heard in full volume? What if your light was never supposed to dim? Enters Queen Latifah, a woman who didn't just find her power, she embodied it, expanded it, and then built an empire around it. On today's episode of Melodic Minds, we're tapping into the psychology of personal power, using Queen Latifah's journey to help you unlearn the smallness you've been conditioned into. This isn't about ego, this is about identity. This is about reclaiming your space, your voice, and your vision, just like Queen did. So if you've been wondering how to stop shrinking, how to step into your potential without apology, stay right here, because this episode is your permission slip to rise. Let's get honest. Why do we play small? It's rarely because we lack talent or intelligence. Most of the time, we shrink because we've internalized a survival strategy. From childhood to adulthood, we're taught to stay in line, to not make waves, to be liked instead of real, especially for Black women. The pressure to overperform yet remain invisible is overwhelming. Society rewards silence, obedience, and conformity. But Queen Latifah, she walked in with a crown already on. At just 19, she dropped All Hail the Queen, an album title that wasn't wishful, it was declarative. She didn't ease her way into hip-hop. She didn't ask for a seat at the table. She brought her own throne. In a male-dominated space, she didn't couture herself to be accepted. She owned her space with full-body confidence. And that confidence, it came from within. That's where real power starts. When you internalize the belief that your presence matters, you stop waiting for others to validate you. You understand that shrinking to fit into small rooms dishonors the bigness of your spirit. Owning your voice is one of the most sacred acts of self-love, and Queen Latifah did that in every verse, every performance, every interview. With her anthem Unity, she called out street harassment, sexism, and the disrespect Black women were enduring. She didn't whisper it, she didn't soften it, she said it boldly, and what made her power so magnetic was that it was rooted in truth. Not rage, not showmanship, but truth. When you understand your voice is a tool for healing, not just expression, you start speaking up for your inner child, your future self, your lineage. You begin to protect your peace, not by silencing yourself, but by refusing to be silenced. That's a psychological shift. Realizing that boundaries aren't barriers, they're declarations of self-worth. And Queen Latifah embodied that. She didn't just speak for herself. She spoke for every woman who'd been told she was too much, too loud, too different. And she made those traits the very foundation of her power. Power isn't meant to stay in one box, and neither did Queen Latifah. She's not just a rapper. She's a singer, actress, entrepreneur, cover girl, producer. She proved that true strength lies in fluidity, and knowing that you don't have to choose just one expression of yourself. In fact, the most empowered version of you is likely the one that refuses to limit their range. Too often we play small by staying in lanes that feel safe but suffocating. We're afraid to pivot, to expand, to evolve. But Queen Latifah's career is a masterclass in expansion. She was never afraid to explore different facets of her creativity because her identity wasn't tied to one title. She gave us hip-hop and jazz. She gave us the iconic legendary TV sitcom show Living Single in Chicago. She moved between genres and industries with grace because she understood this truth. You are allowed to outgrow the version of you that the world fell in love with. That's not betrayal, that's becoming. One of the most powerful things about Queen Latifah is how she leads, not just by dominating, but by elevating. She's never been an artist who needed to outshine others. She shines and creates space for others to shine too. That's real leadership. That's power rooted in wholeness, not insecurity. When your confidence is anchored, you don't compete, you collaborate. You don't compare, you contribute. That's where purpose lives, and the power to uplift without diminishing, and the power to create platforms, not just spotlights. And Queen Latifah has done just that, from founding Flavor Unit to producing films that center Black women in complex, empowering roles. If you're trying to master your own power, remember, it's not about domination, it's about impact. It's not about being the only one, it's about making sure you're not the last one. When your power is secure, you become a lighthouse, not a gatekeeper. Let's talk legacy. Queen Latifah's identity has remained consistent, not because she never changed, but because she always knew who she was. She's protected her private life with intention. She's navigated fame with grace. And through every chapter, loss, grief, joy, and rebirth, she stayed grounded. That's what happens when your power isn't external, when you're no longer performing confidence but living in alignment. See, people who play small often do so because they don't trust themselves. They shapeshift, they hide, they mimic. But real power comes from deep-rooted self-trust, from knowing your worth even when no one is clapping, from defining your value even when the world doesn't. Queen Latifah's strength isn't just that she made it, it's that she made it without losing herself. So here's the message from Melodic Minds today. Stop asking for permission to be powerful. Stop dimming your light to comfort people who haven't discovered their own. You weren't born to play small. You were born to take up meaningful space. Queen Latifah didn't just show us what's possible. She showed us what's necessary. That power isn't something you chase. It's something you activate. Right now, from within. So start creating, start speaking, start making moves that scare you. That's the territory of growth. That's the birthplace of greatness. You are not too much. You've just been in places that were too small. Thank you for watching Melodic Minds, where rhythm meets psychology and soul meets self-discovery. If this touched your spirit, go ahead and like, comment, and share, and subscribe with someone who needs to stop playing small too. And remember, when you rise, we all rise.